D.A.C, how it works is basically it detects folders in the game that is not allowed by the anti cheat, and if you actually make a folder inside the game's directory that is not allowed by the anti cheat, it will kick you. And if the developer decides to actually add the feature of D.A.C 2, it will ban you as well. This is also activated if you actually have PlayFab and Unity set up together. Alongside that, it is a server-sided anti-cheat that allows prevents like basic client-sided bypasses. So it's handed on this server-sided. So unlike other anti-cheats like Easy Anti-Cheat, which is a client-side anti-cheat that handles the server's protection, the game's protection client-sided, which can be bypassed in certain ways that D.A.C cannot. Easy Anti-Cheat, on the other hand, also has basic kernel-level access that the Dawnofthed Anti Cheat D.A.C does not, which can also lead to certain security vulnerabilities if used maliciously by the hands of the wrong people. Valve, on the other hand, has their own anti-cheat in particular, known as VAC. VAC, on the other hand, is pretty useful in its domain, but it also, from my research, has also very weak performance in private matches where people can just mod in insecure lobbies. And let's just say Valve needed to make sure that it was safe on a little bit of points that they can. Now, real quick, D.A.C handles a lot of issues on its own. For instance, the developers can decide freely if they want to actually go down the route of actually making it publicly forced and privately forced or not. You just have to set it up to where it's enabled if so. But it also allows you to customize how aggressive the anti-cheat is with how many folder names are restricted. And you can choose how many you want, as many as you like. This is through D.A.C 2's anti-cheat as it is customizable. However, D.A.C 1, the legacy version, is kind of limited to 1. So if you want the freedom, you're going to have to upgrade to D.A.C 2 so it can actually be used properly. Easy Anti-Cheat, on the other hand, I would say is not customizable except by the hands of Epic Games and is very limited in customization as there are only versions to select and rather than and just updates regularly through Epic Games developers. So Valve, on the other hand, has, from what I'm seeing, not many updates from the anti-cheat, but it does do its job very fairly well in public secure matches. Like if you're playing like TF2 in a casual match, the anti-cheat is active and it does its job in its domain, but it lacks certain issues when you're playing an insecure server in a private match, which I guess is okay in some extent, especially if you're playing with friends just having fun. This is fine. You know, I've done this before with my own time when I was playing with a bunch of bots, like nothing but bots, on a private custom server. I think it was like also offline practice where I disabled the anti cheat and made sure that when I was cheating, I wasn't ruining other people's experience. And not only was I not ruining other people's experience, I was also not detected by the anti cheat because there was no anti cheat active. It was just gone. It was not there because I was in my own server. And because I was in my own server, I had the privilege to turn it off. Now, Valve does not have both Valve and Easy Anti-Cheat do not really have as much privilege to turn this option off per se. Although Easy Anti-Cheat does give the option for you to like interrogate into your game. However, it is client-sided. And because it's client-sided, it can lead to, let's say, issues on its own where people can bypass it. Where Dawnofthed Anti-Cheat, on the other hand, D.A.C, is server-sided. So if you actually have a server known as Photon of any type, actually, it doesn't matter if it's Pun, Real-Time, Fusion, doesn't matter. It'll still work as long as you have PlayFab. If you have D.A.C 1, it'll just kick. and it will still work in some limited functionality. But if you have both DAC 1 and 2, you can actually do a lot more protection and get a lot more out of DAC because it allows you to customize how aggressive your folder selection wants. And if you do some setup correctly, you can also choose how it's disabled. You can choose if it's in privates, you can choose if it's in publics, you can choose if it's in both, you can choose if it's on 24/7. The world is your oyster with DAC. So, would I say the same for Easy Anti Cheat? Not really. But Valve Anti Cheat somewhat kind of emulates this compared to DAC, just not on the like, let's say it's not client sided for Valve's anti cheat, but it is in its own domain and is only allowed in specific games, whereas DAC is more free to use, and that is basically what's making it more community driven because people can use it freely. You can download the source code. Valve does not let you use their anti cheat unless you are making a game on their platform, I think, and it's interrogated with it. I don't know. I'd have to still look further into it. But DAC, Dawnofthed Anti Cheat, does not require any of this kind of criteria. You can just straight up download the source code from like my website, from the GitHub, and you can straight up just set it up in Unity how you want it and play Fab. So that way, it's good. So, what would I compare DAC to other anti cheats? Valve has a little bit more on the competition between DAC, but I would say DAC still kind of does a good job when it comes to the folder detection. Valve just kind of keeps track of their own kind of like, uh, let's say cheat detection, but it keeps track of the cheats, not the folders, as far as I know. The DAC does a little bit things differently because it detects the folders, not the mods. This makes it ultimately more secure because you're not really getting bypassed by mods, because there are people who made malicious mods to bypass anti-cheats on the server side too, but Dawnofthed Anti-Cheat does not take nothing from it. That is brutal, and it will not care about those mods because it doesn't check for those. It checks for the folders, whether the contents got it or not. So it does not respect mods being in there. It just takes you out if you have the mods folder or any folder name that is not allowed by DAC anyways. So that's what makes DAC a little bit more superior than Valve Anti-Cheat and Easy Anti-Cheat. Would I recommend it to Gorilla Tag? Yes. Because usually I've seen a massive cheater problem, especially when I'm playing with my friend DB. Very good friend of mine. But he keeps consistently telling me that there's someone cheating in the game, and I say that because I've seen it before, including myself. Like I've used mods before, but I never used it in a infection or competitive lobby because I always use them in casuals, maybe even in publics. But the kick is, Gorilla Tag doesn't like it when you use mods in publics, and I understand that. You're playing randomly in a public, like, and you don't want the experience ruined. But my philosophical question becomes: if there's no competition to be made even in a public, does that still make any difference? Which I ask is a philosophical question. Now, Gorilla Tag, I don't know if they care about that or not, and depending on how they might see this against it, um, may or may not be the benefit or reason, but regardless, their anti-cheat is bad. Okay, they're in a big cheater problem, even with the anti-cheat. So the only thing that could probably save them the easiest way of saving time from wasting time banning players manually is to either upgrade to DAC or basically cut off their servers, which I know they don't want to do at all. And I know for a fact that Gorilla Tag is not going to do that as their last resort. And basically, I think it's just easier for Gorilla Tag if they actually added some form of upgrade to their anti-cheat. And that's why I'm kind of why I made DAC, so these developers can step in and have some fair fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you haven't been here before and you actually want to see more, leave a like and subscribe. And always turn the bell on for notifications. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, all you want to do. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.